Hello, amazing students. Today we are going to start setting up our science interactive notebook. Our goal is to set up our interactive notebook. We will be much more prepared to study for tests, and it'll be a nice, neat place to organize all of our notes and activities throughout the year. So, let's get started. So, the first thing you want to do is start your title page. And I highly recommend putting your name, grade level, and your instructor, Mrs. Salvador in this case. So if you have all of these things, I cannot tell you how many times I've had a random student come up to me and say, "Hey, Miss Salvador, I found this interactive notebook out on the yard or over by the bus." And they hand it to me, and then the next time I see you, I am able to hand it back to you. So if you are a biology student, you will put biology, life science, biology, 7th grade. All of those will have a biology themed title page. And the more beautiful and colorful it is, the better. So it's very easy to draw it by hand, like this one. Or, if you like, you can get images from the computer and put it together electronically, like I did with the physics interactive notebook. So again, title page, if you are taking physics, 8th grade, physical science, make sure you put your name, grade, and your instructor. So take a minute to pause the video and start creating your title page, page 1. So if you are biology, 7th grade, you will make a biology themed title page. If you are at 8th grade, physics, you're going to make a physics themed title page. And this is a fun time to go on the internet, look up some images for inspiration. So make sure it's beautiful, it's colorful, and it screams you. And another good thing to put is your name. So take a minute to pause the video and do that now. The next thing I wanted to go over is your notebook itself. So after you've made your title page, I like to make it on a plain piece of white paper and glue it in. Having glue sticks handy, scissors handy, all of that is great, especially coloring utensils as well. So I like to use the 8.5 by 11 size, and usually at least 100 sheets. We will probably get close to 200 pages, so 100 sheets front and back will do really well. It doesn't have to be any specific brand, but it's the size that helps. Why? Because when I print things out and templates for you, 8.5 by 11 paper is the size of the paper, and this way you don't have to trim it down to make it smaller. So having an interactive notebook that's big enough is helpful and less cutting for you. And then this is the time where I often suggest starting to number the pages. Start with 1, 2, 3, 4, the odds and even pages, so that you can have a head start on the numbering system. So let's move on to our table of contents. So you're going to have several pages of table of contents. Pages 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 are all going to look the same. They will have the page number and title, and I just usually use a ruler or a book and draw a straight line down and across. And I label the top of the notebook page table of contents. And we can actually start putting in some of our items right now. For example, page 1 is our title page. And if you are biology title page, you'll write biology title page. If it's physics title page, you can write physics title page. Then you have page number. By the way, that's not a hashtag. That's also a symbol for number. Page numbers 2 through 6 would be your table of contents. And you're only going to write this on page 2 of your table of contents. You don't need to rewrite this on every page because, trust me, we will have plenty of other activities to fill out. I did actually use all of my pages, all 5 of them, last year for the table of contents. We had lots of labs, lots of fun activities. So make sure you have enough pages for your table of contents. Then, the next page on page 7, which we will get to after this, is going to be your notebook guidelines. So you can go ahead and write that now. And I will show you how to set up your notebook guidelines, which will be on page 7. So again, take a minute to pause, write table of contents on the top, and then page number and title right below that, and that's where you're going to have room for all of the activities. So take a minute to pause and continue with your table of contents. So these are the only things you're writing today on your table of contents. The rest of the pages should look just like this. So I just wanted to show you a picture too of what my notebook looks like on the actual physical notebook. So this is my first page for my physics one, for example. This is page 3-4 of my table of contents, and this is pages 5 and 6. So again, the only page that's actually getting any writing is page 2, and that's where you're going to list all of our activities for today. So again, take a minute to pause and work on your table of contents. I'll put in my nice, neat version up for a second. Now that you've focused on the table of contents, again, if you need more time, you can always pause this video. Now we're going to look at our notebook guidelines. So we have several important guidelines to follow. So our first guideline is always have a title at the top of each page. Always have a page number. That way you can go back to your table of contents and say, okay, this assignment was on page 132. Let me go over to that page. It'll be easy to find it that way. Always use as much color as possible. It's not just to look pretty, but actually highlighting and bolding out certain information, adding graphics and images to things actually makes it easier to find information, and it helps you remember it better. So using a lot of color will also connect those colors to your brain, and you'll remember the information. Don't use markers, just colored pencils for color. Now the reason why we don't use markers is because they bleed through and then it's hard to read the other side of the page. So we don't use markers, we use colored pencils. Crayons work too, but colored pencils tend to be a little neater. Be as neat as possible. Always keep your table of contents updated. It's really hard to go back and have to write down a bunch of assignments, and we'll always do it with each other in class. Do not rip any pages out or use these pages for any other subject. Now this is important because you don't want to run out of pages. Sometimes students don't think that they will actually use all of their pages. You might have a few left over that you can use for next year's subject, but there's a good chance you'll use up all of the pages just in our science class. So don't rip them out, and also you don't want to lose anything. Glue sticks and colored pencils are very helpful in class. I'm constantly buying colored pencils and glue sticks, so having them handy constantly is extremely helpful. Go ahead and take a minute to pause the video. You can either handwrite these in your notebook, or you can do what I did, and you can type them up, highlight the information, add color, whatever's easier, and then glue it with a glue stick onto page 7 of your notebook guidelines. So take a minute to pause and write down the guidelines. So here I have printed my notebook guidelines just to be as neat as possible. You can easily do that, or you can just handwrite it for your class. So again, make sure you're writing down your guidelines. It'll take you a couple minutes. Pausing the video can be helpful as well. In today's lesson, we started our interactive notebook for science. I hope you found that very helpful, and Congratulations on the first step of your interactive notebook. You rock! See you next time. Thanks for watching.